The dawn gently breaks in the house where Evelyn used to live. The first light of the day seeps through the curtains, illuminating an interior filled with history and memories. Every corner of the room, meticulously arranged, tells a story, from the packed bookshelf to the old photographs adorning the walls. In the spacious kitchen, where the scent of fresh coffee and freshly baked bread mingles, Linda, Evelyn's daughter-in-law, moves with carefree grace. She opens the fridge, selecting ingredients for her elaborate breakfast, while an upbeat playlist plays in the background. Linda sings along, lost in her own world, a bubble of personal contentment. Evelyn, observing from the entrance, her arms crossed over her chest, feels a mixture of resentment and nostalgia. "Linda, could you turn the music down a bit? It's a bit loud for this time of morning," she asks, trying to keep her voice firm. Linda turns around, surprised, as if noticing Evelyn for the first time that morning. "Oh, sure, Evelyn. I'd just like to start the day with some energy," she replies, lowering the volume, but not enough to satisfy Evelyn. Evelyn sighs, an almost inaudible sound of disappointment. "I just wanted to make some tea and maybe toast some bread," she murmurs, looking at the clock. Time seems to drag on for Evelyn, each minute a reminder of her marginalization in her own home. Meanwhile, Linda prepares a fruit smoothie, carefully putting selected ingredients into the blender. "Did you see that new cooking show on TV last night, Evelyn?" "It was fantastic," Linda comments, trying to start a conversation, but her voice sounds distant to Evelyn. Evelyn shakes her head, a nearly imperceptible gesture. "No, I didn't see it," she replies, her voice losing strength. "I haven't been watching much TV lately." Linda shrugs, turning back to the blender. "Well, maybe you should. It helps pass the time," she suggests, unaware of the pang of hurt her words inflict on Evelyn. While Linda enjoys her colorful smoothie, Evelyn stands still, her gaze wandering around the kitchen she once commanded. Frustration builds within her, a stark contrast to Linda's carefree joy. Every move Linda makes, every phone call, every bite of her meticulously prepared breakfast, is a reminder to Evelyn of how things have changed. "Linda, when you're done, could you?" Evelyn begins, hesitating, but she's interrupted by Linda's phone ringing. "Oh, sorry, Evelyn. I need to take this," Linda says, stepping away with her phone. Evelyn retreats, her attempt at communication once again thwarted by the invisible barrier that has formed between them. Evelyn's loneliness becomes palpable. She remembers the days when the kitchen was a gathering place filled with laughter and shared stories. Now, it feels like foreign territory where she is just an observer, watching Linda live her life with a lightness Evelyn has long lost. Evelyn slowly makes her way to her room, resigned to wait a little longer for her simple breakfast. As she walks, she can't help but think about how the little things, like the pleasure of making tea in the morning, have become so significant and yet so unattainable in her own home. The contrast between her life and Linda's has never been so evident, and the feeling of loss and displacement weighs heavily on her heart. Evelyn remembers when Linda married her son Miles. She wanted to provide the best for her son, however, Miles traveled a lot for his job, so Linda and Evelyn were the ones left in the house. At first, it was better. But as time went on, it seemed like Linda became the owner of the house, and Evelyn felt like an unwanted guest in her own home. Days passed, and the atmosphere between Linda and Evelyn did not improve. On a sunny day in the living room, the windows are open, allowing a fresh breeze to enter, making the curtains sway gently. Linda, sitting comfortably on the couch, is surrounded by her friends. The room is filled with laughter and lively conversation, but there is an underlying tension in the air. Evelyn, passing through the hallway, stops when she hears her name in the conversation. She discreetly hides behind the door, her heart beating faster. "I just don't know what to do anymore," Linda confesses to her friends, a look of frustration crossing her face. "I love my mother-in-law, but living with her is becoming unbearable." One of her friends, holding a cup of tea, responds sympathetically, "That must be really tough, Linda. Have you considered other options? Maybe a nursing home for Evelyn?" Linda sighs, running her hand through her hair. "I've thought about it, but I feel so guilty." It's her house, after all. But sometimes I feel like I'm losing my privacy, my freedom. The conversation flows, and Linda continues to reveal her frustrations and conflicting desires. I just wish things were easier sometimes. I wish I had my own home, without having to deal with someone else's memories and expectations all the time, Linda says. Evelyn, listening behind the door, feels a tightness in her chest. Linda's words reveal a chasm of misunderstandings and unmet needs between them. Evelyn begins to understand the complexity of Linda's feelings, a mixture of respect, frustration, and a desperate desire for autonomy. One of the friends lightly touches Linda's arm, offering comfort. Linda, you also have the right to be happy and live your life. Maybe it's time to have an honest conversation with Evelyn, she suggests. Linda nods, her eyes filled with a mixture of determination and fear. I know you're right. I need to talk to her. I just hope we can find a solution that works for both of us. Evelyn quietly steps away, her thoughts swirling. This inadvertent eavesdropping becomes a turning point for her, a realization that her presence may be affecting Linda's happiness in ways she had never considered. Linda's words echo in her mind, bringing a new perspective to their tense coexistence. A week after Evelyn overheard Linda talking to her friends, they found themselves in the kitchen, and Linda began preparing her breakfast, avoiding Evelyn's gaze. The silence between them was almost deafening. Evelyn, taking a deep breath, broke the silence. Linda, about the other night. I overheard your conversation, she started, her voice trembling, revealing her insecurity. Linda froze, surprised and exposed. What did you hear? She asked, her tone trying to remain calm. I didn't mean to eavesdrop, but I heard you talking about wanting me to move to a nursing home, Evelyn confessed, holding her teacup with trembling hands. Linda sighed, the facade of composure crumbling. Evelyn, I'm sorry you heard that. It's not how I wanted you to find out, she admitted, her voice laden with suppressed emotion. I understand that things can be difficult for you living here with me, but this is my home, my sanctuary. I built it, I raised my son here. Where else would I go? Evelyn responded, her words filled with a mix of sadness and defensiveness. Linda looked at Evelyn, her eyes revealing inner conflict. I know, and I respect that. But I also need space, a little freedom. Sometimes I feel like we're constantly walking on eggshells around each other, she explained, her voice trembling slightly. Evelyn lowered her head, processing Linda's words. I never wanted to be a burden to you. I wanted to help you and Miles, she murmured, her voice almost inaudible. Linda approached her, her expression softening. You're not a burden, Evelyn. It's just that sometimes I feel like I need to breathe, she said, trying to find the right words. The two women looked at each other, a tacit understanding forming between them. The conflict and tension were still there, but there was also a glimpse of empathy, a mutual recognition of their respective struggles and needs. Evelyn, on another ordinary day, was in her room, looking at old photographs showing her younger self in different moments of her life. In one of these photos, in a small living room, a young Evelyn is sitting with her husband Jacob. Evelyn began to vividly remember that moment. She was looking at architectural plans spread out on the table when Jacob took the photo of that moment, and a dialogue began. Do you think we can, Jacob? Build our own home, she asks, a mix of hope and uncertainty in her voice. Jacob, with an encouraging smile, replies, Of course, dear. It will be our home, a place for our future family. He leaves the camera on the table and holds her hand, a gesture of support and love. Now Evelyn remembered herself a bit older, overseeing the construction of her home. She's talking to the workers, her face showing determination and attention to detail. Be careful with that finish. I want everything to be perfect, she instructs, demonstrating her personal involvement and passion for the project. Her memory now took her to another moment where she was raising her son, Miles, in the home she had built with so much love. The kitchen is filled with laughter and the smell of baking cakes. Mom, this is delicious, exclaims Miles, while Evelyn smiles, clearly pleased with the simple joy of caring for her family. Now back in reality, Evelyn is in her room, looking at another photograph of Jacob. "I built this home for us, for our family," she says, her voice trailing off into a sigh. Despite Linda and Evelyn having talked after Evelyn overheard that Linda wanted to send her to a nursing home, the tension between the two still lingered on. A day when the twilight filtered through the curtains, casting long shadows over the furniture, symbolizing the growing tension in the room. Evelyn stands, her body stiff, while Linda, sitting on the sofa, looks defensive. "Linda, we need to talk about what's going on in this house," Evelyn begins, her voice trembling but firm. Linda sighs, crossing her arms. "Yes, Evelyn, I think it's long overdue," she responds, looking directly at Evelyn. "You talk about space and freedom, but what you don't understand is that this house, it's all I have left." Evelyn says, emotions overflowing, "I built my life here, raised my children. I can't just be cast aside." Linda gets up, confronting Evelyn. "I understand, I really do, but you need to see things from my perspective too. I feel like a stranger in my own home, especially since you transferred the house to Miles as a wedding gift and insisted so much that we live here. I feel like I'm constantly trying to fit into your rules and expectations." Evelyn shakes her head, a mix of frustration and sadness in her eyes. "It's not about rules, Linda, it's about respect, about understanding what this house means to me." Linda takes a step forward, her voice gaining strength. "And what do I mean to you, Evelyn? Am I just the ill-fitting daughter-in-law? I'm trying, really trying, but it seems like it's never enough." Evelyn looks at Linda, her gaze softening. "It's not that, Linda. I'm scared. Scared of losing my home, my past, everything." Linda sighs, feeling the sincerity in Evelyn's words. "And I'm scared of losing myself, of living in someone else's shadow." A week later, in Linda's dining room, she is gathered with her friends for an intimate dinner. The room is lit by soft lights, creating an atmosphere that starkly contrasts with the tension of the conversation. Linda's friends, attentive, listen as she vents about her situation with Evelyn. "I just don't know what to do anymore," Linda confesses, absent-mindedly stirring her food. "Living with Evelyn is becoming unbearable. I feel like I'm losing my own home, and Miles is not here to help us resolve this." One of her friends, Madison, leans forward, concerned. "But Linda, isn't the house legally yours now, after Jacob passed away and Evelyn transferred it to you as a wedding gift?" Linda sighs deeply, a conflicted look in her eyes. "Yes, it is. But kicking Evelyn out, that just feels so cruel. She built her life here." Another friend, Rachel, chimes in. "But Linda, you have a right to be happy in your own home. If Evelyn is making that impossible, maybe it's time to make a tough decision." Linda bites her lip, clearly distressed. "But how can I do that? How can I take away from her the one thing she has? It's not just a house for Evelyn, it's her legacy, her memories." Madison places her hand on Linda's. "I understand you want to be fair, but you also need to think about yourself sometimes. Being kind means making difficult decisions." Linda looks at her friends, the weight of the decision evident on her face. "I just wish there was another way, a way for all of us to live together in peace." Rachel sighs, offering some tough advice. "Sometimes, Linda, there's no perfect solution. Someone might have to get hurt for things to get better." The conversation intensifies, with Linda wrestling internally between her legal claim to the property and her sense of morality. Linda begins to analyze and weigh her own happiness against Evelyn's well-being. What would you do in Linda's place? Would you ask Evelyn to leave the house and send her to a nursing home? Would you try to continue living with Evelyn, even though the coexistence is extremely complicated? And if Miles knew about the whole situation, what do you think he would do? Please leave your thoughts in the comments. Evelyn is in her room, sitting near the window, looking out at the garden. Her gaze is distant, lost in memories and thoughts. "Evelyn," Linda calls gently, standing in the doorway. Evelyn turns slowly, her eyes meeting Linda's. I've been thinking about everything that has happened, Linda begins, her voice filled with uncertainty. Evelyn nods, encouraging her to continue. Both of us, we've been struggling so much for space, for respect. I know I've been stubborn, trapped in my own world, Linda says, a heavy confession in her words. Evelyn sighs, a visible weight lifting off her shoulders. It's not just you, Linda. I've been stubborn too, trapped in my own memories and fears, she admits. This house, it's more than walls and a roof. It's a testament to a life, to struggles and joys. But it also needs to be a home for you, not just a museum of my past, she murmurs. Maybe we can find a way, Evelyn says, looking hopefully at Linda. Linda nods, a small smile forming on her lips. Yes, maybe we can. Evelyn then continues, change is difficult, but sometimes it's necessary for us to grow together. Evelyn and Linda then make an agreement to try to live in the same house as harmoniously as possible. Evelyn didn't want to go to the nursing home, and Linda didn't want to disappoint her husband. Now both of them are trying, each in their own way, to improve their relationship. Evelyn started helping Linda with household chores, Linda started inviting Evelyn to cook together, and before the environment that used to be in constant conflict is now a place of peace and empathy. Evelyn is in the kitchen, meticulously organizing an album of old photos. Linda enters, holding a mysterious box. Evelyn, I found this in the attic, Linda says, placing the box on the table. It seems to be something important to you. Evelyn looks at the box, her eyes lighting up with curiosity. Oh, these are Jacob's things. I thought they had been lost, she says, approaching the box. Watching as Evelyn opens the box, Linda says softly, you never told me much about him. I'd love to hear some stories. Evelyn looks at Linda, surprised and touched by the offer. I would like that. Maybe we can look at some of these memories together. Now Evelyn and Linda are sitting side by side, looking at Jacob's memories. Evelyn shares stories, and Linda listens attentively, laughing at times and at other moments looking thoughtful. The growing warmth between them is noticeable, a sign of a new understanding. As the night falls, a knock on the door interrupts the moment. Linda gets up to answer it. Upon opening the door, it's Miles, who returned earlier than expected and decided to surprise them. Evelyn and Linda, both filled with emotion, welcome Miles, who enters and senses a pleasant atmosphere between the two. He starts to inquire about what happened. Linda begins to explain that while he was away, she and Evelyn had many conflicts and problems, and she even considered sending Evelyn to a nursing home. When Linda said this, Miles frowned and was about to start an angry speech because it was his mother. Evelyn and Linda then started laughing, leaving Miles completely confused and not understanding anything. Evelyn then continued to explain that it was just a moment of argument between the two, but now they both respect each other, and they are even cooking together. When Miles left for his business trip, which was supposed to last a month but extended to 3 months, he left in a tense atmosphere, but he never imagined that it would escalate to such an extent. However, upon his return, the atmosphere between the two was so light and peaceful that Miles felt a sense of peace that he never thought he would feel in that house, especially after his father Jacob passed away. Thank you for joining us today on Deep Stories. Be sure to like and subscribe and hit that notification bell so you don't miss out on our next video.